Okay, once we're in PathPilot, we have the right machine. The first thing we need to do is hit the reset button and reference our machine. So we're going to do that before we can get started with any jobs. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit and right click and look at it in an isometric view. Just to review, we have just zeroed our machine right here in this blue box. So before we do our, if you're imagining this being in the shop, our vise would be somewhere down in here. So I'm going to move our spindle down to where we would likely have a piece of work, and I'm going to re-zero out. I'm sorry, correct that first. I'm going to zero the machine out here, then I'm going to move it over there and re-zero it. So right now the machine is not able to do any positive Y values, any positive Z values, or any negative X values. The machine only can work in this space over here. So I'm going to move the machine to where we can actually do some work, and then we'll create some conversational jobs. So I'm going to go into my main tab here. I'm going to just say G0 X9 Y -5 and Z -5. Move this thing down a little bit, and I'm going to hit enter, and it should move my machine down to here. So I can now start to do a little bit of work. I'm a little bit further in my box. All right. I'm going to now re-zero these out. So that's going to be my work origin for this job. So I've got my machine set up so that it'll do some work. Let's do a simple conversational job where we'll do an engraving. So before we go there, I got to remember which tool is our engraving tool. I think it's tool number 20. Yes, tool number 20. So go back to conversation. We're going to select tool number 20. If you remember, our spindle speed, our spindle is going to be off. It's not going to allow us to put that in there, but we don't need the spindle on for engraving. It's a drag engraving operation. All right, for our Z clearance, I do want to have the tool above the work. So I'm going to put 0.2 so that the engraving bit comes out of the work. And I think we can leave that feed rate alone. So let's do a little test here. We'll just call it engrave. So we can pick whichever font we want to use. And then we can pick where we're going to put that on our piece of work. Well, if we have a piece of stock in there, and depending on how that stock is set up in the vise and where we've set our work origin, that's going to determine where we put the base of our letters. This allows us to move that base to either the lower left-hand corner, the middle of our word, and we got to realize that the G in this case is going to go below that line, and then, or we could have it start over here. So I'm going to go with it being centered, and for my base I'm going to put it in the positive 3 for the X. So that means wherever our 0 is, it's going to go over 3 to get started on our work. The Y base, I'm going to leave that as -1. The Z start is going to be 0. And I'm going to put a little bit of pressure on it. We're going to put 10 thousandths load on the spring, which is probably a little more than we need, but we'll leave that to go. All right. The height of my letters, let's make them be a ½ inch tall. All right, and let's see what happens. I'm going to hit save, and it should load up our file. Here it is. You can see, based on the choices we've made, here is our origin. I'm going to go over I'm going to come down to this location, right, is what we said in our conversation, and go over to this location, and we should be able to go ahead and right click and go in ISA view, take a look at what this is going to look like, and watch it go. It's asking for our tool. We've put our engraving tool in. And if I zoom in a little bit, you can take a peek at it going through each of these. All right, stop that. And the next step is how would I get this off of the virtual PathPilot down to getting it so that we can use it and run it on one of our machines. Okay, so if that file is loaded, we're going to then go to our File tab here, and I'm going to hit Edit G-code, and it's going to launch this, which is our engraving toolpath that we just created. We now are going to save that. Oops. Take that back. I'm going to go to File and go to Save As. We're going to go to Save As and save it to our virtual PathPilot files. Now this is a multi-step process. So I'm going to hit Save. Puts it in there. Okay, we can close out of here. We can go back now to our other tab. And now it should show up here. We now can hit this file and notice that it's downloaded it. So as soon as I hit this, it downloads that file. If I right click and go to my File Explorer and go into my downloads, there's my engraved file. I've downloaded it twice. So here it is. So I can now copy that, and I can go right into my folder. And maybe we'll make a new folder. PathPilot Hub Files. I'm going to open that up. Go ahead and paste it in there. Now, if you created the file correctly, theoretically we should be able to grab that file, take it off of there, and put it on a flash drive and run it on our machine.